For one last time, welcome to Rise. From Lausanne, Switzerland, where masks have been out of fashion for at least a week and it frighteningly feels like the pandemic is over, I am Professor Demian Hodari of EHL Hospitality Business School, Lausanne.
And from lovely London, as the professor says, one last time, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for joining us on Rise. Oh, I'm going to lose it. And I know you're all betting on how quickly. 2 years, Professor, 2 years, 721 days, 4 seasons, 54 episodes, 8 Intel partners, almost 90 executives and residents from across the world. Our 100-day labor of love is coming to an end. And what an incredible journey it's been. I'm going to have such a hard show. We are so excited everyone is with us. We never thought we'd get to this point so late. And we are incredibly grateful because Rise has been here with you, for you, and because of you for the last 2 years as we all work together across the global Rise community to keep everyone strong, hopeful, optimistic, focused, centered on what we need to know to keep our industry moving forward as a force for good. To everyone who's joining us again, thank you very much. We are very pleased that you are with us and excited to have you with us. So sad for our finale episode of Rise. Professor, why is today so special and what's in store?
Well, I think it's special for all the reasons you just said, and we've got so much in store. We've got a recap of the last 2 years. We've got a little bit of evolution of Rise, some words from our executives and residents, some Q&A, and apparently a special video that I have not yet seen. But before that, Anita, let's begin as we always do.
Where in the world are we? This is usually in the program where we stop for a moment and get a sense of what do we need to know right now for decision-making, for optimism, for understanding, for insight. What is the data we need to know now? Now, we thought about this finale episode, and I must say, I know like Professor Hodari, many of you have noticed the incredible advancement in the last 2 years of all of our technical support. And it's our magnificent Wizards of Oz, particularly Jessica, who's behind the screen, who is showing in the most amazing ways her creativity, her strength, and her wizardry, as you will see in this next video. Because instead of showing actually what we felt you need to know now, we thought we would pause for a moment and say, what do we all need to remember about the journey of Rise, which has been the journey of all of us of COVID-19. So we're going to rewind 2 years and start at the beginning and get a sense of where in the world were we then, where in the world are we now, and goodness me, how good should we feel of how far we have come? Wizard, please.
So it's just about 3 a.m. I've got my mask on in the midst of a rush that essentially they are putting Wuhan, the city limits, under a lockdown.
Wuhan in China now on lockdown as the country struggles with fear of a pandemic.
Desperate measures to try and contain the deadly coronavirus.
WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock, and we're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
The most active hotspot right now is Italy. Nearly 200 people there have died in just the last 24 hours. Airports have been empty for several days, and now all stores except for pharmacies and food markets will be closed. Take a look at the St. Peter's Square at the Vatican, empty as the country with the highest death rate grapples with getting the spread under control.
After consulting with our top government health professionals, I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
This is a vital update about coronavirus.
To help save lives, stay at home. Anyone can spread coronavirus. You should now only go out when absolutely necessary for food, medicine, work, or exercise. Always try to stay 2 meters apart. Do not meet others outside your household, even friends and family.
189 countries had imposed some form of travel restriction, ranging from measures like quarantine to border closures.
Queues like this outside restaurants prove just how popular Eat Out to Help Out has been. The government's figures show that 64 million meals at a cost of £336 million have been ordered. But that's a price they can't continue to pay indefinitely.
In a dramatic change of policy, millions of people across England have been placed under stringent new coronavirus restrictions for the festive season. Boris Johnson made the announcement today after scientists said a mutation of COVID-19 was spreading rapidly in London, the southeast and east of England.
You know, normally this is a time of year for celebrations and for gatherings, but the coronavirus has made celebrating pretty difficult this year and a little different as well. Is it in? It's done. It's done. You are really good.
The Olympic Games will not spread COVID infections, at least according to Thomas Bach, president of the International Olympic Committee.
The United States has reopened its land and air borders to travellers from much of the world, 20 months after a ban was first imposed.
This Friday marks 2 years since we said that the global spread of COVID-19 could be characterized as a pandemic. Although reported cases and deaths are declining globally, and several countries have lifted restrictions, the pandemic is far from over, and it will not be over anywhere until it's over everywhere.
Wow. And it's interesting, Professor, because we show that and we use that as the start of our finale to give everyone a sense of the journey we've been on. And as you and I know, I mean, we started RISE as a conversation, needing to create a place for people to figure out the questions before we even begin to get the answers. And it's interesting how, rewinding on that while the video was playing, I did a check on from a WHO perspective, and we started RISE at the beginning when borders were just shutting and people were getting an understanding and there was no vaccine. And currently, as of today, there are 494 million confirmed cases and 6.1 million souls lost. It's been a journey. And I think importantly, RISE has been committed to making sure that everyone on this journey stays together. No one stands alone. And we figure out how we're going to come through this stronger. So it's been an interesting one. I'm curious, Professor, as you get that nervous look in your eye. What is in the last 2 years one of your signature moments in terms of this is what really took me as I never expected that from our industry, and I'm proud of our industry. Anything stand out for you? Clearly unrehearsed.
Clearly unrehearsed. A single thing, I don't know. We talked about it on this show. I guess it was nice to see all the ways the industry responded without being asked to. No one came and said, hey, hotels, you must accommodate, people. Restaurants, you must serve the needy in special ways. You must get the food out there. And I just think it demonstrated that it is a caring industry and a service industry. And so it was all the many, and not just the big companies or chains, but all the independent restaurants that responded, and our friend Elizabeth Blau in Las Vegas, and initiatives that they enacted there to help people who couldn't leave their houses and couldn't get food. So I don't have a single thing. It's really just all the many examples I think were meaningful to me. But watching this video, I got the chills a little bit in the beginning and trying to remember what it was like when things went into lockdown. We're kind of so used to things now, but if you go back 2 years to those first days, we had never experienced anything like that, any of us that were alive, or, and trying to make sense of it in that moment. We're still trying to make sense of it. In that moment, it was scary. I mean, it's still frightening, but it was terrifying.
And I think what you're saying is so important, and why Rise has been always saying we cannot waste these 100 or 721 days. That it's easy to get caught in the momentum of the next normal and the confidence of the next normal, but parts of the world are still working through this. And I think exactly to your point, and I love your calling that out, the hospitality industry, whether it was hotels, restaurants, attractions, whatever it was, the meaning of the word hospitality came to life as hospitality became frontliners. And that was, geez, this is going to be a really, I've got my tissue. I've got my tissue ready. I remember Puneet called it out with the Taj and the million meals and 100,000 nights. And as you said, Elizabeth and all the hotel groups, Marriott, Hyatt, everyone, Red Carnation stepping up and just doing something because they had to. And that was pretty heroic. That I thought, I've never seen our industry so non-competitive and so generously compassionate before. And I think our industry needs to be really proud of that. And I need you to take over because I can't talk anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things there. One is industry stepped up when it needed to without necessarily being told to or asked to. At the same time that it was the hardest hit, besides maybe the medical profession, that was the hardest hit. So it wasn't in a strong position to do so. It was, it was losing jobs. It was having to make difficult decisions. Occupancy was close to 0% in much of the world. And yet the industry found a way to contribute and help make things a little bit better for a lot of people. And I think we lose sight of that a little bit. And, I'm here teaching these days, and I'm with students who have really, this is the first semester they've had really a normal semester of in class. And it's interesting to see how much they appreciate being in person and education. But at the same time, when I asked them a little bit about things from 2 years ago, it's in the past. We don't have to think about that anymore. And I think it is important that we reflect back and we understand what happened in the industry, what's happened in the world. And I thought that video captured so much of that so well. And speaking of students and needing to move forward, on an early episode of Rise, I think it was towards the end of season 1, we invited some young people to come on the show and tell us their story and how they were living through the pandemic and how they were making the best of it. And as part of our Where in the World, we decided to go back to those students and ask them, well, where in the world are you now? And how have you progressed over these past 2 years? And we have a little video to remind people of these amazing young people and hear from them.
Who am I? My name is Shrey, and since my last time at Rise, I'm back at DHL for my final year and developing content as the boy with wings and working on an entrepreneurial project. What's next for me is developing an actionable network, charting my professional journey, and positively impacting those around me. The next normal, positive change and continuous growth.
For the past 2 years, I've gained various different experiences in agencies, startups, in and out of hospitality, kind of learning lots about myself and new skills. And I've started my freelance business, which I will be pursuing going forward. As a brand manager, I will be working with different smaller hospitality and non-hospitality companies and helping them build their businesses. And I'm very much looking forward to it.
Hi everyone, Gianluca here. Well, since my last appearance at Rise, I started a new job at Cloudbeds, which is a fully remote hospitality technology company. And since then, I have to tell you that this is my new normal. I never thought of being a digital nomad, being able to work from wherever I want while traveling at the same time. And in an industry which I love, which is the hospitality industry. Actually, we all love this industry. That's why we are here, right? And I simply love it, and I would never change it for anything else at the moment.
Hi, my name is Direxelu from Nairobi, Kenya. Since Rise, I've been working on my startup called The Shaba, which is a social enterprise that works with rural communities to connect them to sustainable markets using tech. The next step for me would be to continue work on Shaba, as well as to innovate and create sustainable solutions that can be useful to the communities that we're in. Thank you.
Since my appearance on Rise, I had quit my job, pitched my business idea to Professor Hodari, built, opened, and hosted a bar during summer, and last but not least, recently graduated from EHL, which is why I'm currently looking for a job where I can not only grow professionally, but also personally. And copying season 1 of Rise, my next normal will realize that there's always a way, initiate, share my experiences with others, but also explore unknown fields. In short, Rise.
You know, I forgot about that acronym, people turning RISE into an acronym and how much fun we had with that. There's so many little things that have happened over the 2 years, but when I watch these videos, Anita, it's just, I guess it energizes me a bit to watch that no one said I gave up, no one sat back, they've all trying new things, being bold. And I wonder if the pandemic pushed people to be even more daring with what they do and less complacent and more self-reliant. You see, almost everybody's doing something on their own, being entrepreneurial, and I love to see that.
It's interesting you say that, and I think you're absolutely right in that this time that we've all had has forced us to question our choices. And what I found amazing about all of our RISE alumni, shall we say, is their courage. Because exactly to your point, they could have taken an easier path. They could have been part of the great resignation as we're seeing it from our industry. And to make the choice to continue, to make the choice to have faith that the industry will move forward. It'll be different, but it'll move forward. And to question, what role do I want to have in that? And how do I want to operate within that? I think that's amazing, because I mean, I always say that the fact that we can have these conversations means we're safe. And there are a lot of people that haven't been. I mean, I've said to you and I've had conversations before, but I've said to my team, if we were in a different part of the tourism industry, we might have closed down 2 years ago. Everyone has been a victim of circumstance in different ways. And the reason why we created RISE, all of these, graduate students, job seekers, hopefuls, to give them some place that, I think that these people have been amazing, because it shows a profound courage. There could have been easier ways to keep busy, make money, and develop a career. And the fact that we have this stealth of personality in our industry, that's a really good sign. And Professor, thank you, because these are all your EHL alumni as well. I'm sure a few of them, i.e. Shrey, are cringing at us for showing how his hair has evolved and sophisticated in the last 2 years. But Shrey, as one of our interns as well, has been gorgeous. And all of them. So I salute them. I think it's absolutely amazing.
And to be fair, not everybody's from EHL, not all 5 of the students. So a couple of them came from other places around the world. And I think it demonstrates the breadth of the industry and the breadth of people and geographical areas that attract people to the industry. And speaking a little bit about what we've learned over the past 2 years, I've been lucky enough to have some discussions with industry and students in some organized settings over the last few months. And one of the conversations that came up with was what an exciting time to be graduating and going into the industry. Not because, well, it's difficult and challenging, but we need to evolve now. Business travel is never going to be the same. People are looking for different things. The leisure sector is evolving. Restaurants have found new ways and new needs in order to be competitive. So it's an exciting time to go in, because everything is ripe for challenge and for change. And so the opportunity is there for people that haven't lost faith and that are courageous and want to make a difference. So I actually think in a lot of ways, it's been beneficial to keep people excited about the industry, because we can do so many different things. And we've demonstrated over the past 2 years that the industry can evolve and innovate. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these students and all my other graduates do over the next few years.
Indeed. And you make a really good point before we move on, because I think what's important is whether it's people in the industry, travelers, we are them. It's no longer about the people outside and what they are thinking and all the research around them. we've all gone through a reboot in terms of the value of travel. We've all gone through a reboot in terms of the value of work and education. So I always think that as we go into the next normal and the next after the next after the next, it's so easy for us as practitioners to think of the travelers, the students, the professionals. We are them. And one of the greatest sources of insight that we have is our own silent thoughts with ourselves as a starter. So we move on, sir.
Yeah, we've always followed up that segment on Where in the World with our headlines. And what we decided to do this time was to show a headline. Each of us picked a headline that we showed in the first episode and sort of update that issue with something more current. So I'll go first, as always. So I showed this one in my always pessimistic and, frightened perspective, which was economic pain will persist long after lockdown ends. And this was from April of 2020. And I think at that point, many people thought this was a short-term issue. And once we, figured out the impact of the virus or a vaccine, everything would be over. And it was kind of just a call out to say, this is a long, long road we're going to be on. And we don't really know all the ramifications, not only of the virus on human health, but on psyche, on industries, and on economic situations. And, no one should be surprised by the fact that, this held true. We're still seeing repercussions. And my current headline is just one of them. And, regular viewers will not be surprised that I'm focusing on the labor issue. And basically, what I thought was really interesting was the immediate labor issue was all the layoffs, right? And all the loss of income for people and out of jobs, and how are they going to pay their bills, and how are they going to keep busy and remain positive if they were having to sit at home and realize that they had no jobs. And some of these companies laid off or furloughed 60% or more of their employees. And so our immediate concern was for the livelihood of these people. But if you look at the economic outcome or result of all this, is that people realized they didn't really necessarily want to work in the industry under the conditions that they were working in, the unflexible hours, the low pay, the lack of recognition for what they were doing. And I think companies are, obviously, we know, suffering from this now, trying to find ways to resolve this. We had Chip Rogers on our last episode from the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and we talked about this a little bit. One of his recommended solutions was to increase visas to the US to bring in more workers. But yet there are still unresolved issues in terms of the conditions that are keeping people from rejoining the industry. And I guess my point is, when they laid off everybody, no one talked about the fact that these people will not want to come back. That is something that people suddenly realized that they didn't need these jobs or want these jobs. And it's just an example of something nobody foresaw. Nobody talked that this would be the outcome. We just wanted them to get their jobs back. But the fact that they wouldn't want those jobs, that's an economic pain that's still with us that nobody foresaw or yet has demonstrated a solution to.
And I love that you've mentioned this, and I'm grateful because you've called out something really critical about this last 2 years. And we've mentioned this before many times about Mother Nature really causing an intervention. And exactly to your point, our industry was the golden child. It was growing for 10 years at 4 to 5% per annum. There was all this excitement. Everyone wanted to travel, and we were too busy to deal with the fundamental issues: staff well-being, sustainability, overcrowding. We'll get to it when we need to. And it was almost a matter of anyone in the industry is blessed to be in the industry. Yes, we are, but we need to take care of each other. And we've had the time to really see now the priorities that need to be dealt with in the next normal. And what you've raised is a fundamental priority, because so many global tourism economies can't now restart the engines because there's no one there with the key in their hand. And I think that that's a really important point. And it's the courage of being honest about, okay, we need to fix this if we're really going to come through this better, which is important. And that's where I admire leaders who do that, which leads to mine. Now, I showed this in the first episode last year when it was Alan Joyce, the CEO of Qantas, who I absolutely admire, who stepped up and said, there could be an international travel ban until 2021. Now, this is back in April, 13th of April last year, or 2 years ago. And it was a feeling of, wow, we thought this is going to be 100 days. We didn't figure at all that we would see the fourth quarter and aviation being grounded. And I remember this came out, and what struck me about this was, again, his courage in saying, for all of the optimism, for all of the hypothesis, for all of the watch and see what's going on, we don't believe it's going to come back until 2021. And I was awed by putting it in writing. And so if we fast forward now 2 years, this came out of Australia as well. So Qantas, the national carrier, the next one in terms of 2 years on, April 2020, this is what we're seeing as a headline. And this is a regional carrier in Australia itself, actually now pulling in pilots and cabin crew. Because ultimately, when we looked at it, when we rewind in terms of the impact, there have been thousands, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at my numbers here. There have been thousands of people who have lost jobs. 11,000 aviation professionals lost their jobs across Qantas and Virgin Australia, or V Australia, since March 2020. Where did they go? They had to keep feeding their families. They had to keep their livelihoods going. Now that we've got domestic and regional travel slowly and cautiously opening up, there's a scramble to pull together these qualifications. And that's been really interesting to see how now the shift is taking place. So we're ready for takeoff, finally. But there's going to be a lot of recalibration of the mechanics of global mobility as borders and skies start to open. Because ultimately, tens of thousands of these aviation professionals, from pilots to cabin crew to air traffic control right through, have had to find other work. How do we court them back? And link to what you were saying, Professor, not just courting them back in terms of qualification and job opportunity, but security that they're not going to have to lose their jobs again. I think that's a really, really important part of it in terms of how everything is evolving, how our industry is evolving, and how we need to make sure that we protect people who recommit themselves to being part of our global industry itself. I thought this was interesting.
No, it is. And I hope that in a couple of years, if I'm still here and teaching at school, I'm going to be able to show how things evolved out of this, how a change in the environment, which I talk about all the time, led to positive outcomes for the industry and not only negative. So fingers crossed that the industry and all industries find a way to move forward and make things better for the employees and deal with the situation and not just try to return to the way things were. So good example, Anita. I think you have a little surprise for us.
I do, and I know that this has been your covert Rise theme song, Professor, but it's a video that we showed 2 years ago, which really struck my heart because it was completely on the fly, pardon the pun, shall I say, and it was a cabin attendant who back in March 2020 took to the audio system and left a message for passengers. And I remember last year I was on stage at an aviation summit, and the CEO of KLM was one of my panelists. And I asked him, whatever happened to her? And she was just a trained vocalist who was a cabin attendant and who sang and had no idea this was going to be the impact. But I always found that little did she know how long this would last.
Thanks to you. All right, let's see it.
Dear passengers, in this difficult time, I would like to say goodbye to you in a different way. We are, this flight crew, rather emotional of what is going to happen with KLM also and with everything. We have a blue heart and we do not know when to show this again to you. Nowadays music brings us together, and that's why I will sing a song to you to say goodbye. And wish you all the best and love, and stay healthy from us, KLM crew. So, this is for you. When will I see you again? When will we share precious moments? Will I have to wait forever? Will I have to suffer?
Okay, save me.
No, it was really impactful the first time you showed it. Every time we've talked about it, and then I knew you would show it again because it really did capture that moment, right? It captured this moment of no one knew what was going to happen. We were all emotional. We were all scared, isolating. We didn't know when we'd see each other again, when we'd be able to work again, et cetera. So I think it's the perfect video to remind us of what that moment was like and what the last 2 years has meant to everybody.
And we got here. That's the important thing. We got here.
We did. All right, look, I'm going to move forward because I also don't want to get emotional. The world has evolved. We've demonstrated that with our headlines, with our Where in the World, with our students moving forward. But RISE has also evolved over the past 2 years. And so we wanted to take just a quick moment or two, a short video, and then we'll rejoin you afterwards just to show everybody a little bit how RISE evolved, but not just because RISE evolved, it revolved based on the feedback and needs of the RISE community to help adjust to every next normal that we've been through over the last 2 years. So just a quick video to, demonstrate a little bit how we've evolved alongside everybody else. I don't want to talk too much about us, but I forgot some of the things that we did. We tried different segments. We had Rise in Practice. We had Concerns and Confidence. We had so many evolutions just to keep things fresh. I think just as much for us as for the audience, but it's really nice to see that. And I got to say, I know you mentioned a little bit, Jessica, right? I love when people say the production's so good. What company do we use? And I say, what company? We do this all in-house. And this is Jessica who's learned, and the whole team, but really Jessica who's learned how to do all this. And none of us knew any of this when we began. So really, again, big congratulations from me to Jessica and everybody on our team for what they've done.
Indeed, it's amazing. And I have to say, I always call her the sous chef, but also Grace and everything she's done to support Jessica and move it forward. And just all of us, if I look back and I think, wow, they've used this 2 years, and our incredible interns that have been involved. And it's been an amazing journey. And part of that journey has been our executives and residents. Now we have been, oh my goodness, I'm going to just, honestly, this program is sponsored by tissues. So we've had 87 executives and residents from around the world. These are C-suite leaders, the top of their game. So many of them are watching right now. I've been watching, whether it's Jonathan, who's just messaged, Adrian, Robin, Al, so many from around the world, who, when we reached out to them and said, we want you to be involved, everyone said yes. Everyone, from the head of global hospitality, global tourism, global aviation, right through the world, literally right through the world. It's been incredible. And we want to really celebrate every executive in residence and thank them for not just showing up as a business card, but showing up as people also enduring this time. So we put together a little video of some of the sound bites that really stood through. That's for everything we heard and all of the wisdom and all of the insight and all of the compassion. What are some of the quotes that are really going to stick in our minds as we carry on? So we have a beautiful little collection put together about our executives in residence, which we share with you now with a world and 2 years of love and thanks to every single one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, our executives in residence, we thank you.
I think it's a brilliant initiative. I think in this time when I listened to you, you did a great scene setter, and I think the word uncertainty must have come up more than 20 times. These are uncertain times for us, everyone as human being, as individuals, as business leaders. It's uncertain for us as society. All of us have all kinds of questions and we don't have all the answers. So it's important in this time, I think, that we share, that we challenge each other, that we support each other. And I think that's what the two of you are doing.
I think that, first of all, I've always told people, follow your heart. Only when you really do every day what you like and love, that's the best situation, and you never work a day in your life, as they say.
I think the most important thing in a crisis is what? Is giving hope. So I think it's important to pass the message of hope. There is hope in life. But it's very important from us as being in the industry to share a different perspective so that the people can have hope to understand that this is not the end of life. This is not the end of things.
The pace of information is nonstop. It's 24/7. You know, you can't really put the toothpaste back in the tube. We are all 24/7, and I think that's about to become even more frequent to 24/7, 1 hour by hour, minute by minute.
I would summarize it by saying what I had to do, and I don't know if I did it well, but I had to do it, was to move from being a peace general to a war general. And a war general has to problem solve really fast, has to accept that speed trumps perfection, has to accept to make mistakes for the greater good. And also from a team management perspective, always think positive, create excitement about our future so that we keep our best people in our industry.
I think the first thing that I've learned is how to do Zoom. But I mean, besides that being a joke, is that at least we can communicate regularly and see each other. Because of our diverse portfolio, we're all over the place. So to be able to communicate and just show some form of leadership and be positive, even if it's not right, the opposite each other. So we've learned how to manage our business without having to travel.
I do think moving forward, there's going to be more of a hybrid world, a hybrid existence. Some people have not been able to replace the connection that they feel in person. So I do think we're going to see less people frequenting to start, but I do not think by any stretch of the imagination that the physical aspects are gone.
This pandemic has given us a wake-up call. We've always said that tourism is resilient, it will come back, but not the same way. But this effect of this pandemic is different. We had the 2008 financial crisis, we had the 9/11 bombings, but this is unprecedented. Definitely, when we open up, it must be different.
All the CEOs of the major companies have got to support the academic institutions on hospitality around the world. We have to step up training. We have to step up hospitality. We have to step up self-esteem and getting people ready, because we cannot continue to go the way we're going, losing more of our graduates than retaining our graduates.
you know, watching that, and the other day kind of looking at a list of who's been on the show, and ministers of tourism, the World Bank, chief executive officers, a plastic surgeon, chairwomen and men of companies, students, entrepreneurs, airlines, hotels, restaurants, wellness. It's amazing the people that stepped up and came on the show. And I have to say, pretty amazing that we were able to get everybody to come on the show and all the logistics. And you mentioned Grace before, and just managing all this has been a tremendous amount of work. But I think it's been meaningful for all of us. And I know from keeping in touch with so many of the executives that have been on the show, including many of the ones that you brought that I got to meet through this, they all really enjoyed it, and they want to do more. They're saying, can I come to the school? I've got a couple of people coming in a few weeks that I've met through you on the show. And so they're wanting to contribute, they're wanting to keep people interested and passionate. You asked me before, signature moments over the last 2 years. There's been 54 of them.
What's amazing about that as well, and to your point, so much has changed, Professor. So much has changed in the last 2 years, but so much has stayed the same. And I noticed that particularly when watching all of the quotes that the quotes that our teams, each of us was asked his 2 favorite quotes. And right now, like what you're doing right now, you have not changed your shirt or your jacket for 2 years. It was so funny. Look, I'm watching the screen. I'm looking at your little screen thinking, he's exactly the same. At least my crazy blonde and my hair have grown in the last 2 years. I'm curious. I have a question for you.
Okay.
You are a highly, highly, highly regarded professor, a doctor, and you have your fan club at EHL and globally, but you've had to adjust your, for lack of better words, performance in the last 2 years. As we now start easing into opening up in the next normal world, how has your teaching evolved in the last 2 years?
All right. So ignoring the fact that online was a whole different world, I'd say this semester, I have to say there's been a couple challenges. One, my jokes don't seem to be working as well. And these classic jokes that I've used for 10 years, they don't really seem to be working anymore. So I'm going to have to come up with some new material there. That definitely needs a little bit of work. What I tried to do again this semester was I have a no technology policy in class, and I've had that from before as well. And this semester, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this semester I re-emphasized this and said, you've been on Zoom, you've been learning on Microsoft Teams for 2 years. Why do you want to be staring into your computer? This is a chance for us just to talk and interact. And I think people have appreciated that. And we've got a lot of activities that we do in class. I'm trying to get away even more than ever before from PowerPoint or lecturing from the front, which was never really a big part of my role, but much more in there with the students, talking and trying to get them to be honest and to reflect. And I think it's had mixed results so far, but it's been, I think it's an important shift. So I guess that, right? Even more of what I was trying to do before, less technology, less screens, less lecturing, more, let's just talk.
To that point, before we move on, why are you a better leader because of COVID?
You ask everybody this. I should have thought that was coming. I don't even know if I'm a leader, Anita, so I don't know how to answer that. I think I'm a little bit more, I can't think of a better word, but humane. Like I'm a little bit easier. I had this reputation before of being very tough and strict, fair and good, I hope, but also quite demanding and tough. I think I've eased off a little bit. I think I've started to recognize that we need to be a little bit more understanding. And people are a little bit late for class. I kind of let them in where I didn't let them in before. And I think I'm just a little bit more understanding and more realizing priorities, are not always, they have to have evolved as well.
But I think you make such an important point, and it's why I ask that as my favorite question to leaders. Usually a crisis is a bomb goes off, we recover. Economic downturn, we recover. Natural disaster. This has been 2 years of sustained crisis. And what I've always admired about leaders, including yourself, is we've had to show our humanity. How many leaders at the highest level have had to tell their people they're afraid, they're tired, they're not alone. And I think that's where I always get awed by how you had your EHL professional persona, and through Rise, you came on as the professor, you went through your grouch period, you've shown your soft underbelly. Everyone has had to show the wholeness of who they are, because this crisis did not allow people to section off parts of their personality. And I think that as the world opens up, we have these little glimmers of opportunity to leverage that window of intimacy that the world has shared to fast forward how we create those collective solutions with compassion for problems that all of us now share. So I think what you're saying is absolutely what leaders have had to experience in themselves. So.
Yeah, I should have anticipated that question. I think we've got a couple minutes. Do we have any, we always do this Q&A with our executives and such. I'm just wondering if we have a minute or two to see if there's any questions. For one last time, if Grace wants to come on with that voice and share a question or two for us.
Absolutely. Our first question is, which executive surprised you most?
Anita?
Oh, you're so mean. If I look back at the last 2 years, the interview with Praneeth surprised me because I'd known him through the industry. I'd known him through his IHCL Dodge connection. But when he spoke so intensely about the frontline activity, that really took my breath away. I loved Adrian's comment about the wisdom of what have you learned before, because that was the episode of Been There, Done That, when it was about the past episodes or past crises. And he was just, I learned how to Zoom. I love the simplicity and the humanity of his response. But Chip surprised me last, even though he was one of the most recent. I loved our time with him because he really let his guard down. And I thought, for someone who's a leader of an entity that has tens of thousands of members and the weight of the industry on his shoulders, I loved that Chip showed up. And you?
I think it's you, right? Yeah, because when we started this, we didn't know each other that well. We had, had some interactions and you'd come down to school. But I think your dedication was always, I'm going to put my entire resources, my entire team behind this show. I'm going to use my entire network. And, even if we had some obstacles along the way, we kept going forward and you never wanted to give up. You always wanted to do more, try new things. And I think that was, it's just been so nice to be with someone who's always so optimistic and positive and encouraging and understanding when I'm grouchy or not 100% there, or I forget a meeting. You've always been very understanding. So I think that's been, you've been the best executive on our show. Grace, let's take one more quick question while Anita cries.
I have two. So if you answer the next one quite briefly, and then I have a further one. So this one is, after everything the industry has been through in the last 2 years, what makes you most hopeful about the future?
I think it's the fact that I see students every day who are still so passionate about the industry and want to do things and, push sustainability forward, push new labor ideas forward, find ways to improve businesses and lives for people. And every day I have a student come up to me wanting to ask, advice or pitch an idea. And that's just been great.
Yeah, I think on my side, it's as linked to my previous comment. The intensity of humanity and compassion the industry has shown to itself to move forward in the past 2 years. That to me that's the glue as we rebuild.
And you had another one, Grace?
Actually, it's not a question. It's a comment that has been sent through from one of our followers who's been with us since the very first episode, Steve. And I just wanted to share it with you both. Like all good yeast doughs, the bacon must carefully need select ingredients, making sure to mix thoroughly while not overworking the dough. The assemblage must then be placed in a supporting environment to proof and rise until it achieves just the right desired qualities. Once baked, deliciousness emerges from the oven for the world to savour and enjoy. Team Rise, you have lovingly gathered our beloved industry, the ingredients, kneaded the facts in the perfect manner and consistency, allowed the industry to proof on individual and regional terms, and baked up exactly what the industry craved, needed, and wanted during this time of uncertainty. Thank you just does not seem to be the proper sentiment of the day. Merci for the service you have gifted our industry during your 100-day project of love. And Shishay for your loving humility and servant leadership our industry and world so desperately needed. We, your global viewership, will forever be indebted for the gift which has been Rise.
That's very nice, Steve. Well, I mean, beautifully said and deeply appreciated. I think anytime we ever talked about whether Rise should continue, was always comments like that or viewership or feedback that kept us wanting to do more. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What he said.
Yeah, that's my line. I think you've got something to say now.
Indeed. Okay, so this is the really hard part of the program because we have a video to share, which neither of us have seen, and yet both Professor Hodari and I have been on the receiving end of the questions for, which I've just made a jumble of a sentence, so forgive me. We have a little backstage video, which our Wizards of Oz have created, and they did a bit of a Q&A with both of us. So we have not seen the outcome of this. We are grateful for their courage and their creativity. We're excited, and we hold the right to fire them both, depending on what we're about to watch. What did I get out of Rise I didn't expect? I knew when Demian and I first talked that we needed to do something. We couldn't sit back and watch the industry start to go through a trauma we didn't know how long it was going to be. I didn't know how much it would mean to us, to my team, to our audience, to the executives. I think the executives, the number that responded with 100%, they'll be on stage. That took my breath away because everyone felt the need to do something. And it created an intimacy in relationships that is going to make us a much stronger industry going forward.
So on a personal level, I got to make a whole lot of new friends. And by that, I mean, develop my friendship, my relationship with Anita to a place I never thought it would get. And with her entire team, so with Jessica, Grace, Joanne, as well as with Sarah on my end, we became much more friends and not just work colleagues, in my opinion. And that's not something I expected, probably because I didn't think that I would be working with all of you for 2 full years or every week, several times a week. And I have to say, maybe it's not exactly what you're asking, but it was always fun. I never dreaded a meeting with the Rise team. And on a professional level, I got to meet probably 50 executives that I didn't know before who were contacts of Anita. We both shared our contacts and our relationships with each other. And I just really didn't think I would meet that many fascinating, intelligent, and really just great people with interesting perspectives of the industry. And already built my network from that. And I actually have a few of those people coming to EHL to share their views in person with my students. So those are 2 things that I didn't expect.
What's next for me is continuing what I'm doing, following what I believe is the core purpose of my business, following what I believe I am wired to be doing. I have shifted the business focus because the need is different, both in terms of leaders and in terms of the industry. What I am not going to be doing is forgetting the learnings of this past 2 years. Mother Nature gave us a chance to stop and to really think about the how and the why of our industry. And I'm going to continue to push the industry to not forget what we have learned, not forget what we have all experienced together, and not forget the fundamental belief we have in why our industry and our community is so important.
So what's next for me? To be honest, I really don't know. For now, I think it's dealing with a lot of the fallout in the industry from the last 2 years, working with some companies, changing up a lot of what we teach, doing more executive education. There's a lot to learn from the last 2 years that companies and people can put forward to improve their personal or company performance. So I'll be working on that. I've got a lot of research projects that got stalled during COVID that are starting up again. I've got a new research stream focused more on the labor situation in the hospitality industry, and a lot of companies that are eager to participate with me on that, involving students and companies. So I think that's really what the next couple of years hold for me professionally.
I love you and I thank you. And I'm so grateful you said yes to doing this. And I'm humbled to share the last 2 years on stage with you. So please know how grateful we are.
So Anita, it really was the highlight of my last 2 years was working with you and the entire team here on Rise. I can't imagine what I would have done, how I would have filled the hours or kept my spirits up or kept considering myself a valuable member of the tourism and hospitality community. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for agreeing to do this, for sparking the idea to collaborate on Rise. We didn't know what it was going to be when we began. I'm not sure we've ever completely figured out what it is, but it's been a lot of fun. I'll cherish these memories forever, and I'm sure we're going to stay in touch and work together. So this is not goodbye to you by any means. I'll probably just see you, not on Zoom, but somewhere else. Thank you.
Anita and Demian, you have also put in a lot of time into Rise over the last 2 years. It wasn't just the 54 hours of filming live shows. We had weekly rehearsals, tech checks, meetings with executives, and planning meetings. You also took the time to put together content for every show, which made all the difference in what we took away each episode. It kept even those of us working on Rise looking forward with hope.
I think we can speak for everyone who has been involved in the show over the last 2 years when I say thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for always prioritizing the hour, no matter where in the world you were, and importantly, no matter what was happening in your own life, because the last 2 years were not easy for anyone. While it may be time for Rise to say goodbye, the time you gave to our viewers and to us will continue to play out in new careers, graduations, and next normals. Thank you, Anita and Demian, from all of us.
Wow. Look, I know we're almost out of time, and I think it's time to wrap up, Anita. I want to say something. I want to, again, I need to say thank you to some people besides you. And Grace and Jessica know how much I appreciate, how much I've enjoyed working with them. On my side, Sarah, Manuel, Shrey have all made it fun and easy, easier to do the show, and also to do my other work that allowed me to do Rise. So I want to thank you all. Then I want to thank my friend Marcus, who made our intro video free of charge at the beginning of this whole thing, that we've kept that for 2 years and really set the tone for how we wanted the show to be. I want to thank EHL for giving me the time to do this show and to supporting it. And then I want to thank my family. I want to thank Nicole, Esme, Avi, and Veronique, because they were very supportive of this, especially in the beginning when they were like, what are you going to do? You're going to have a show? You think anybody's going to watch this? No one cares what you have to say. They're actually coming around and actually watching the show a couple of times and actually, begrudgingly saying it was pretty good. So thanks to them. And I think my daughter said she was going to try to watch today. So thank you to her for that. And finally, the audience and the executives, as always. Really, I feel honored and I feel like I got more out of this than probably anybody. And so I want to just thank everybody for watching. Gave me something to do. Thank you.
Indeed. And from that side, from my side, echoing very much Professor Hodari, to all of the team at EHL, thank you for loaning us the good professor. and all that the EHL has supported us in terms of right through from communications to, again, participation, etc., to the UNWTO, to the Secretary General, Zura Pololikashvili. We thank you enormously for such a high level endorsement, support, compliment to this program. We're very grateful. Our executives and residents, our Intel partners who've been fabulous in injecting our brain with fresh insights, the incredible backstage team, Jessica, Grace, Joanne, the interns, as you've said, Professor Sarah, Katia, Shrey, Manuel. To you, Professor, there are no words, but there is a huge amount of love and respect to all of the people across the WISE community. We've got over 90 countries. We've had thousands of people watching. We've got an entire gallery on rise-weekly.com from the last 2 years. Thank you. We did this for you, with you, and because of you. And so for that, I say, as always, as we sniffle, as we go forward, stay strong, stay hopeful, stay confident, and keep rising. God bless.
Thank you, everybody.